beautiful historical of Chiang Mai City. And I will not take this so long. Shall we start the opening session? First of all, may I invite Vice Director of National University, Mr. Machaka Chiriro, to deliver the welcome remark, please.
Good morning to everybody. Welcome for this morning. Let's welcome Mr. Arun Chai Puticharan, Director General, Department of Fisheries. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Major University, local corporation and supporting organization, it gives me a great pleasure to welcome to all of you for the third World Small Scale Fishery Congress with the theme Disciplinary and Transformation for the Future of the Small Scale Fishery. As we know that the fishery is important source of food, nutrition, income, and livelihood for hundreds of millions of people around the world. In Thailand, a fishery is significant in terms of supply of seafood, freshwater fish products, and industry is worth more than 200 billion baht a year. On the other hand, we have been faced with the fishery problem, especially a small-scale fishery, which are affected by the country change the taking place around the world. As too big to ignore the global research network and knowledge globalization hold this congress to order to facilitate the opportunity for research, participants, students, young professionals, fisher and fisher organization, environment group, and politics make to share up to date. Inform about all the aspects to a small-scale fishery and the formulate action plan to capacity develop program to support the implementation of the small-scale fishery guideline. Actually, Congress take place in Chiang Mai, Thailand. It is good to think that the major university can contribute the Congress as one of the co-hosts with other organizations from Thailand, like Kasetsart University, Mahidol University, Ramkhamhaeng University, SEA, FDEC, and the Department of Fisheries. Major University is a agriculturally based higher education institute and to be university that connect with the people. communities and country in the everyday life. One of our university's 30 roadmap to about the food security, food safety, which this means we always support and develop research which related and to improve both livestock production and also fishery as a food supply for the population in Thailand and other countries. Finally, this is an opportunity for me to declare the efficient opening the third World Small Scale Fishery Congress, and I wish all of 5 to people day for interesting and benefit program, and also that you have Christian to stay in Chiang Mai. I warmly welcome you again, and thank you very much for all of your help to make the conference success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Rector Mr. Rashaka Chiriro. And next, may I invite Deputy Director General of Department of Fisheries of Thailand, Mr. Arunchai Putjaran, for the deliver the opening remark.
Good morning. Chair of the third World Small Scale Fisheries Congress, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. In my capacity as the Deputy Director General of Department of Fisheries of Thailand, and also on behalf of the Government of Thailand, I would like to convey to all of you participating in this Congress my dear friends, welcome. With the state of country's fishery and an ever increasing global demand for fishery products, there is rising concern for the future of inland and marine fishery, and people who depend on fishery for their livelihood, especially small-scale fishery. In Thailand, where approximately 3.3 million individuals are working within the fishing industry, either commercial or small-scale fisheries. The government of Thailand, through Department of Fisheries, has accomplished a lot of achievement on enhancing sustainability for small-scale fisheries. Some good examples of such accomplishments are: the first, Thailand legal framework development and the control mechanism with a view to achieving the IUU-free Thailand. Human rights, responsible and sustainable fishery management, as well as measures taken to strengthen the law enforcement. The second, the development in labor issue, which was progressed in parallel with the technical dimension of fishery reform. And the third, ensuring sustainable small-scale fisheries by increasing area designed for small-scale fishery and the definition of artisanal and commercial fishing have been made. It's a great pleasure of us to know that too big to ignore and Metro University, in partnership with SEPDEC, FAO, and other key organizations, are organizing the third World Small-Scale Fishery Congress to align vision for the future of small-scale fisheries. I strongly believe that despite the Congress will come up with constructive issues and achieve its goal with active participation from all delegates. Last but not least, the government of Thailand, through the Department of Fisheries, would like to avail itself this opportunity to give the best regards and cordial greeting to all participants. We are here in Chiang Mai, Thailand, where history, culture, religions, and civilization meet. Wish you all good luck and memorable stay in Thailand. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Director General of the Department of Fisheries of Thailand, Mr. Arunchai Puttacharan, and thank you for the important message that we'd like to share to all of us. And this is come to the end of the opening session. May I pass the microphone to Dr. Ratana, please.
Thank you very much. We are known for making our opening very informal because that is how we want to set the stage. So my role is to speak to you a little bit about the Congress so that we can get going without any further ado. So I just wanted to start by saying what a privilege it is to be here again for the third time. So this is the third Congress, and it felt like it was not long ago that we met in Merida in 2014 for the second Congress. And I think many of you were there, and also many of you were also at the first Congress that was held in Bangkok in 2010. I think you would agree with me that we have achieved many things in the past 8 years, and even before that. But in the past 4 years, especially, we have done a lot, right? In the past 4 years, we have now the voluntary guidelines for small-scale fisheries. We have very strong organizations of fishers and fishers association, civil society organizations, and other organizations that are supporting small-scale fisheries. We have one of the largest research networks. This is the Too Big to Ignore, the Global Partnership for Small-Scale Fisheries Research, and other research networks that are really working to address the issues and concerns and trying to promote the visibility and viability and the sustainability of small-scale fisheries. But these achievements may come at a price. The more visible small-scale fisheries are, the more questions people will be asking. Are they doing a good job at the environment? Are we taking care of the environment? Are we contributing to sustainability? Are we efficient? So those questions raise a lot of other issues that then we need to follow up on and stay on top of, so that it continues to be the case that small-scale fisheries contribution to food security, to poverty alleviation, to stewardship, to environmental sustainability, to social safety net, and many other things and values that we know of small-scale fisheries continue to be recognized. So we have work to do, and this Congress is all about that. The theme of the Congress is about transdisciplinarity and transformation. So basically, it's inviting us to think beyond what we have been doing in the past and challenge ourselves a little bit more in terms of interacting with each other and form partnership and collaboration and work together in order to put small-scale fisheries in a very high place where we know they belong. So it's very exciting to be here to provide this platform so that we can move forward together. What we have with the Congress today and during this week, there are about 375 participants from 55 countries around the world. That's how big we are in terms of the Congress on small-scale fisheries. And there will be lots of presentations, many sessions. Many of the sessions actually are taking place in this room as part of what we call the plenary sessions. And the reason why we're spending a lot of time together in the same room is to make it possible for us to really share lessons and exchange ideas and discuss things and talk about what we believe to be important to take on in terms of our actions moving forward. So we are organizing our Congress in terms of the theme by the day. So today we call it a Science Day, tomorrow is a Community Day, we have Policy Day, and I was not allowed to put it on the program, but on Thursday we called it Fun Day, which is our field day. We're going to go and enjoy the lake. And then Action Day, so we're coming back here to try to put it all together, projecting ourselves, looking forward. 2022 will come so soon. But as we do that, we wanted to make sure that we have these cross-cutting questions so that we keep it on our mind. This is not working in silo. This is about reaching out. This is about extending ourselves. This is about getting out of our comfort zone to really talk with community people, with policy people, with other practitioners and other researchers about these important questions. If we are able to keep these questions in mind as we move to the Congress, and then on the very last day, try to answer them, that would be excellent. So to help facilitate this, we have a lot of volunteers that are working to take notes, and some of them are trying to capture messages, synthesizing information. So it may be looking like you're being checked or evaluated on something, but basically it's about trying to learn from what's going on during this week to see that, what have we done, what else remains to be done, and what we can do together as we move forward. All of that cannot be possible without the participation of all of you. It's such a privilege to see so many people coming from all corners of the world to be here, to participate, to contribute to the conversation. So I personally would like to thank you for making the time. But on behalf of the organizing committees, I also would like to extend our appreciation to all the organizations that are part of this. There's endless thanks that's going to go on every day, because that's what we need to do. We thank every one of us for being here. We thank everybody who's making it possible for the Congress to happen. So volunteers are wearing the polo shirt. So if you see them and you like to send your thanks to them, you can join me in doing that, because I've been doing that for the last 2 years in putting this Congress together. Of course, we also appreciate the Holiday Inn and the staff. Kun Charles has been excellent in putting the Congress together. So if you need anything, if you have any, need assistance of any kind, you always can get our volunteer or the hotel staff. What I said is all in your program booklet, so you can always go back and read that. I do have an official welcome message from Kangwan and I, who's the Congress co-chair, but it's all in there, so I just let you read that. But now I really want to get us started, and I just want to maybe move to the next session without further ado. We only have 1 hour left, and now we will do a proper setting the stage by our 3 keynote speakers. So I would like to invite Professor Sven Lentor, Nicole Franz, and where's another person? Are you here too? Okay, yes, let's welcome our speakers to the stage, and let's get the Congress going. Thank you very much. I do need to mention one more thing. We are live streaming because so many people wanted to be here and they could not make it for various reasons, and therefore we doing these live streams through YouTube in order to make it possible for people to join us. So if you are interested in, if you are into social media, so that would be very good as well. If you can just help promote the Congress YouTube and also other social media. I actually don't know exactly what these hashtags and the act this, act that, but I'm sure you're much better than that than I am. So I would go there so that I could introduce speakers, and then the speakers would come to the podium to talk. So our first speaker is Professor Sven Toft, who's now well, emeritus professor, and with a lot of honorable degree attached to his name. But the most important thing about Professor Toft is that he is founding members of one of the founding members of the Tubik No and the cluster leader. So he is at the Arctic University of Norway. Major work that Sven has done in the past is his, again, long career, and he has been working on so many different issues and fisheries and has made numerous contributions. We all know of his work, and we always enjoy the messages that Sven has to share with us. And I invite you to read some of the work that Sven has written, not only in the books and papers, but also in publication like Sumutra, which is available for everybody. So Sven is tasked to set the stage for us from the research perspective. I would like to invite Sven to give a talk.
Good morning to all. Thank you, Randana, for giving me the great honor to be so early in the program. She has given me the assignment to summarize the state of the art of my research in 10 minutes. Imagine. I will try to do my best, but as you know, it's an impossible task. It's a big world out there, and there are a lot of people out there who have taken interest in small-scale fisheries, so this is almost impossible, but I will try to do my best. I'm coming from the cold of Norway, where fisheries were always important, not just as a way of life for thousands of people in scattered community along the entire coast. If you can locate Norway on the map, you will see that there is not much else than a long coast, stretching from the very south up to the border with Russia. Fisheries is an industry also for our national economy and for our society as a whole. It was always like that, it is still like that, and it will continue to be like that. Our future depends on their fisheries. Fisheries were always predominantly small scale, not so much anymore. In this sense, we share the situation with many other countries in this world. Every country with a coastline or inland water, a lake, a river, has fisheries, which means that people have something to rely on for their daily food security, provided that they have access to these resources. It's a global phenomenon, I think, that small-scale fisheries are under pressure for various reasons, and they are undergoing great change. That, I argue, was always the topic. Social change. What, why, how are they changing, and what makes them do that? Are small-scale fisheries changing for the better or for the worse? I do not know this for sure, of course, but I bet that in all these countries around the world where small-scale fisheries exist and play a role, there will be people working in universities or other knowledge institutions who find these fisheries fascinating, interesting, and important, and who will spend time, sometimes their entire career, like myself, getting to know them and help to sustain them. It is one of the greatest blessings of my now long career in small-scale fisheries research that I have colleagues all over the world who I know, I work with, and who I call friends. Many of you are sitting down there looking at me now, and I hope there will be many more of you before this conference is over. We are a bigger community than we tend to believe. And with TBTI, we are now also forming a partnership. And why should we not find small-scale fisheries well worth studying? Maybe we find inspiration to learn about them in order to help defend them, because we always sympathize with those who are faced with more powerful actors and who must therefore struggle to survive. This is a legitimate attitude, but it should not be nurtured by pity for them. We are often blamed for being hopeless romantics. But I think the essence and the reasons for our engagement is that we are driven by a sense of social justice. And this is how it should be. But I also believe that our vision is much broader than that. That we are and should be always be looking out for the opportunities for small-scale fisheries to thrive. They are not always doing that. Not all small-scale fisheries are faring equally well, but some are doing pretty well. And our basic research question should, in my view, be inspired by the following. TBTI has engaged in studying small-scale fisheries around the world, and our perspective is a comparative one. What makes some small-scale fisheries thrive, while some fisheries are not? This, I believe, is the ultimate question for comparative research. What is the difference that makes a difference? What is it that makes some fisheries thrive while other fisheries do not? And that is not always easy to tell. We can always describe these differences, but it's not always easy to explain why they exist. Current policies often turn small-scale fisheries into a target for support. TBTI has demonstrated that governments have been much more generous with large-scale fisheries than they have with small-scale fisheries. Imagine if the situation has been different. But rather than asking for government handouts, the aim should be to nurture self-reliance and resilience by strengthening the entrepreneurial capacities of small-scale fisheries. Building knowledge is a way that the small-scale fisheries research community can contribute. Knowledge is indeed power, and we should never believe that it is not. I'm a social scientist. People like me are automatically drawn to small-scale fisheries because that's where the people are. The overwhelming majority of people globally are in small-scale fisheries. You find small-scale fisheries by visiting their community. I'm not sure when social scientists started to go there. Perhaps the first one would be Raymond Firth in his famous book on the Malay fishermen that came out in the 1940s, end of 1940s. But that may well be because we tend to follow what is happening in the English-speaking world more than in other parts of the world. People have been publishing about small-scale fisheries in other languages before that. We often refer to Garrett Hardin and his paper about the tragedy of the commons, which is perhaps the, or at least among the most cited papers there are. We continue to be inspired by this paper, not just because we sympathize with him, but because we feel the need to say something else and something more. But Garrett Hardin was not the first who phrased this dilemma. We should perhaps have referred to this guy, Jens Worming's article about the Danish eel fishery from 1911. But it was published in Danish, so no one would read it. Now it has been translated. And if you read that article, you would believe that Hardin did the same. The social science faculty at the University of Oslo is named, the building is named after this guy, Eilert Sundt. He is considered to be the first Norwegian sociologist. He died in 1875. He is famous in Norway, but not outside. He studied Norwegian folk life, traveling around the country, and he happened to visit one community, small fishing community on the west coast of Norway, and he was intrigued by these statistics at that time, which showed that in no other industries did people in such great numbers perish. They, of course, died at sea. Small-scale fishing is still, or maybe Eilert Sundt was the first fisheries sociologist. I don't know that, but that's pretty early, what you said. Small-scale fishing is still the most dangerous occupation one can have. It doesn't have to be like that. Safety issues should still interest us. They may be physical in its consequence, but they are often social in its cost. Small-scale fisheries may have been a rather marginal research topic within our disciplines, but things are changing. It is, at least for me, increasingly difficult to follow what is published about small-scale fisheries globally these days, even in English. I do not think it is because I pay less attention now than I used to be. It simply has become a hot topic among many of us. New topics have emerged, along with government interventions and increasing governance ambition, especially after UNCLOS. Conservation issues were not always at the forefront as they are now. It is hard to predict what climate change will bring to this industry, but I do think that they will draw more attention in the years to come. We know that small-scale fisheries communities are particularly vulnerable to climate change impacts, as demonstrated in a recent report by FAO on climate change and climate change impacts on fisheries. Small-scale fisheries research, the research community should of course help communities dealing with this challenge. we cannot remain on the fence. Too big to ignore, which set out to stimulate more research into the values, contributions, and governance of small-scale fisheries, has accomplished a lot over these 8 years. We would not have been here today without TBDI, and it makes me proud to have been part of TBDI from its very beginning. As Anatana just mentioned, TBDI coincided with another important initiative, the Small-Scale Fisheries Guidelines. Now being implemented around the world, it means that small-scale fisheries are on the agenda of major institutions, both within government and civil society. But with the SSF guidelines, the research community has found new inspiration. At least I have, and I know that many of my friends and colleagues out there are equally intrigued and interested and wants to contribute. I have, over the years, often heard complaints among colleagues within the social science discipline that no one is listening to us. Speaking truth to power does not necessarily mean that power is listening. However, with the SSF guidelines, I do not think we have reason to complain much more. I challenge my students and colleagues to name a subject of theirs which is not in the SSF guidelines. They always have a hard time thinking of one. In my view, the SSF guidelines also represent a watershed for the small-scale fisheries research community. We have a role to play in following what is happening with regard to their implementation in our own setting. We should watch closely and critically. FAO member states who endorse the SSF guidelines do have something to prove, and we should check whether they are actually doing that. But we also now have an opportunity, even a moral responsibility, to contribute, to be constructive with the way the SSF guidelines are contextualized, which they eventually must when being implemented. Because of the work that we have done over many, many years, also through TBDI, we also have important insights to offer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Very inspiring as always. Let's move on to the second speaker. I'd like to invite now Editor Stephen Lukanga to give a talk about communities. So Editor is the founder and executive director of the Environmental Management and Economic Development Organization in MEDO, an organization that addresses environmental and social and economic challenges in the Lake Victoria region in Africa. So she has been highly involved in the important national and international organizations such as the World Forum of Fish Harvesters and Fish Workers, and an African Women Fish Processors and Traders Network, and the advisory group of the FAO Global Strategic Framework for the implementation of the Small-Scale Fisheries Guidelines, and the National Technical Advisory Committee of the Lake Victoria Environmental Management Project. So she's very busy, clearly, but she's still making the time to be with us, so really appreciate this. Please welcome Eltrude again to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Ratana, for this beautiful introduction. dear co-organizers of this conference, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. There's no energy. Jambo. Jambo. Okay. As she has introduced me, my name's Edith Lukanga from Tanzania, where I work with different processes and organizations, and it is a very pleasure for me, and I'm privileged to be here. It's my first time to participate in the Small Scale Fisheries Congress at this level. Yesterday evening, during the meet and greet session of the Fisher Folks, Professor John Kurien narrated a very beautiful story that he called a short story of a long voyage towards making the small-scale fisheries guidelines that described the path that led to the establishment of the small-scale fisheries guidelines. In that story, before he went any further, John said he had a problem. And his problem was how to begin. He wondered, how does he begin to tell a story that is not older than the sea, but is about the sons and daughters of the sea, who struggled hard to make the guidelines to be. He wondered where to start. So, reflecting to that story of John, I looked at my presentation of this morning. I wondered myself, do I have a problem also of where to start? The answer is no. I know exactly where to start. Where to begin, for me, is from June 2014, immediately after the adoption of the SSF guidelines. For the civil society organizations, at that moment, we felt that that was when the real work began. All the processes towards developing the guidelines were important, but implementation, putting what is in the books into practice, what was more important for us. So this morning, I will share the recent initiative that CSOs are undertaking as part of the CSO's efforts in supporting viability and sustainability of small-scale fisheries around the world. However, before I proceed, allow me to describe very briefly how these CSOs are organized to mobilize their participation at the global level. Globally, we are organized as through the IPC. This is the International Planning Committee for Food Sovereignty. It is a global alliance of small-scale food producers whose aim is to advance the food sovereignty agenda at the global and regional level. Allow me, on behalf of the WFFP, ICSF, these are the three global organizations that we worked very close together during the whole process of development, and from then we formed a strong cohesion of us working together at the global level through the IPC. I would like to commend the governments and the FAO for bringing the world's attention to the importance of the small-scale fisheries and making significant strides in valorizing the contribution of small-scale fisheries that makes to livelihoods social and economic development, food security, and poverty alleviation. Just a brief context. In June 2014, during the 31st session of coffee, the voluntary guidelines were endorsed as the first ever international instruments specifically dedicated to small-scale fisheries. While the finalization of the endorsement and the endorsement of the instrument itself were of critical importance, the challenge lied in ensuring that its principles and provisions are put into practice. The SSF guidelines will only become effective if are implemented, and for that to happen, concerted efforts are needed at all levels. We all have a role to play. And that's why I started by saying, immediately after endorsing the guidelines, that was when the real work began. So, immediately, as civil society organizations, we started putting our thoughts together, trying to see how would these important guidelines for us be implemented. How would Rome-based processes be brought to local, be taken back home? Because that's where the real change happens. That's where the people are. That's where the small-scale fishers, fish workers, and their communities, men and women, spend day and night to feed their families, to feed their communities. So how would these instruments be of use to those people? We felt that one of the key aspects towards implementation is to start by raising awareness among the organizations of small-scale fish workers, small-scale fishers, fish workers and their organizations, and the communities through actions at different levels, local level, regional levels, and build the capacities of these actors towards implementation of the guidelines. We felt it's important to engage stakeholders who didn't participate in the consultations for inclusion of the issues in the implementation. Because before the endorsement, we had a lot of processes that gathered inputs from various stakeholders at national levels, at regional levels, that formed part of what we call today the small-scale fisheries guidelines. But after the endorsement, it was important to go back home to share with them that your ideas, your concepts, your views have given birth to this important instrument. But also, for implementation to happen, it's important that adoption of these guidelines is done into policies, laws, regulations, agreements at appropriate levels, at local, national, and even regional level, regional policies and instruments. But also enhancing the formation of the national and regional level organizations so that once they are organized, they are able to participate through a unified voice. So we thought it's important to facilitate processes that would lead to a more organized community of civil society organizations at different levels. But more importantly, to develop national plans of action for small-scale fisheries based on the small-scale fisheries guidelines that will also be reflected in the national budget. For that's when we see the meaningful efforts towards implementation. Without budget, there's no implementation. After putting our thoughts together, we went further. We mobilized resources to start what we have put down together towards implementation. We continued by mobilizing resources, and we got funding from IFAD to implement this project that aimed at building the capacity for implementation. And with this project, we took back home what was gotten from home in 8 countries. We had 8 national workshops and 3 regional workshops. What you are seeing in the picture there is one of the workshops that happened in Tanzania. Apart from the workshops, we developed different materials for capacity empowerment. We developed audiovisual materials, videos, but also print-out materials that helped in building the capacities of those whom we worked with together. Apart from that, we are also in the processes to facilitate, to encourage, to promote regional level processes for implementation. And here I've drawn examples from the African context, whereby African Union, through AU-IBA, has supported East African civil society to get more organized. For example, this organization that Ratana has just introduced me with as a General Secretary, the African Women Network for Women Processors and Traders has been formed as part of also organizing women so that they are able to contribute, to be visible in the implementation processes. So this is important because women play a significant role in the sector, and they have a significant contribution to ensure that these guidelines are implemented. But also, at the sub-regional level, there is a sub-regional platform of non-state actors, EAFISH, in East Africa, which has been formed for that purpose as well. And at a Southern African level, we have SANSAFA, and in the Western African side also, we have another organization. So why this organization is to organize, to get organized, because without organizing, we'll keep on and continue agonizing and nothing will happen. So organizing for the small-scale fishers, fish workers, and the organizations is very, very important. The second important element of what we have done so far is to develop a global strategic framework in support of the implementation of the SSF guidelines. Just a brief context about this. The 32nd session of COFI in 2016 welcomed the development of a FAO SSF Umbrella Assistance Program and agreed on the need for a complementary mechanism in the form of small-scale fisheries guidelines global strategic framework to be developed with full and effective participation of all regions and in consultation with small-scale fisheries stakeholders. So this is what is important, in consultation with small-scale fisheries stakeholders. The committee invited FAO to further elaborate the purpose, the role and structure of the Global Strategic Framework, stressing its function in relation to information and student sharing and in promoting an inclusive and holistic approach. In here, the civil society organizations, through the global level organization, the IPC Fisheries Working Group, we've played a very significant role. The small-scale fisheries guidelines, the global strategic framework, is an informal global mechanism for facilitating interaction between COFI members and interested actors to support the implementation of the SSF guidelines at all levels that allows for participation of small-scale fisheries actors in guiding the implementation. So this one gives space for small-scale fisheries actors to participate in the implementation processes. The overall purpose of the Global Strategic Framework is to ensure coherent participatory planning, implementation, and monitoring of policies, strategies, and actions in support of the SSF guidelines and in accordance with the human rights laws. So here is the proposed structure of the Global Strategic Framework. You see there is an advisory group. This is composed of the representatives from the global small-scale fisheries organizations and other relevant constituencies. So the WFFP form part of that advisory group. But also you see there is friends of the SSF guidelines. Who are these friends? These are the COFI members, the governments. And one of their roles is to liaise with the COFI members to raise awareness of the SSF guidelines. Because if you look at the guidelines itself, the handbook, you read it through, it speaks to the governments, it speaks to the states, it orders the governments to implement their mandates. So with these friends of the SSF guidelines, when they take part in the Global Strategic Framework, that's the gateway to assist in mobilizing for the implementation through the other members who are not yet part of the friends to buy in and commit towards its implementation. But also one of the other roles is to promote human rights-based approach and assist in mobilization of the resources in support of the implementation. And now the third section of the proposed Global Strategic Framework is the knowledge sharing platform, which is made up of interested partners such as the academia, the research institutes, regional organizations, and NGOs working to achieve sustainable small-scale fisheries. The knowledge sharing platform is envisioned to support the achievement of the objectives of the GSF, and in particular to generate and communicate knowledge and support capacity development. To also assist in raising awareness on best practices related to the implementation of the guidelines, but also to conduct research, to communicate, and they will also be involved in capacity development and resource mobilization. So I would see all these expected roles and responsibilities of these components of the Global Strategic Framework have been developed by the civil society organizations in collaboration with FAO. So FAO Secretariat, FAO will play the Secretariat role to the Global Strategic Framework, and it will be responsible to ensure that the communications from the other components penetrate through coffee bureau and then to coffee. So this global strategic framework does not have a decision-making authority. Its role is advisory and facilitative. And the main guiding principles that guide the global strategic framework are the ones that are guiding the small-scale fisheries guidelines in accordance to Section 3 of the SSF guidelines. So where we are at now with the development of the GSF, we have developed draft terms of reference for all these actors, and the process is continuing. Another important activity is monitoring. In monitoring, we have started to keep our thoughts together again, to ask ourselves, what is monitoring? Both implementation and monitoring processes related to the guidelines implementation must be realized through participatory processes. And that's why we are being proactive to already start discussing, internalizing the processes towards monitoring of the guidelines in line with the relevant paragraphs of the SSF guidelines 13.4 and 13.5. Recently, we had a meeting, a global meeting, where we started asking ourselves again, what is monitoring? What principles must be taken into consideration to guide the monitoring process? What monitoring methodologies can be employed at different levels? Where and how should the outcomes of monitoring process be applied? Why is monitoring of the guidelines important? Do we think it's important? So these are the questions that we are already asking ourselves. What should be the role of the CSOs in the monitoring process? But again, who should monitor? That's also important. So in conclusion, we feel that we still have work to do. We still have work to do. We're working towards, now our target is towards the year 2022, which is an international year of artisanal fisheries and aquaculture, but also seeing how SSF guidelines could be used as a tool to realize the SDG agenda, the Sustainable Development Agenda. To finish up, I would like to say that implementation, monitoring, and the overall planning of the implementation processes is the role of each one of us. We have a role to do, regardless of who you are, where you are, and at any time. Having said that, I would like to thank you so much for listening, and I wish you a successful Congress. Thank you.
Thank you. Very great to have the overview of what the CSOs have been doing. Congratulations and thank you for all the good work. So our final speaker for this morning is Nicole Franz from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, based in the headquarters in Italy, in Rome. So Nicole has been the face of the small-scale fisheries guidelines for many of us. And of course, she has quite a long history even before that, working in various places, including OECD, before she came to FAO. But this contribution that Nicole has been making, for instance, to the sunken village report, to different kind of analysis and the work that FAO has conducted, has really led us to where we are today in terms of integrating the science and community and policy into action. So we are really appreciative appreciative of what Nicole has been doing, and we're looking forward to hearing what Nicole will say in setting the stage for policy for us. Please welcome Nicole.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be here and to speak to you this morning, and it's also an honor to be among the first three speakers. I'm going to complement the previous speakers by looking a bit more into global and regional policy processes that are relevant for small-scale fisheries. I will first briefly speak about selected global policy processes, including on these SSF guidelines, which have been mentioned by the previous speakers, and some key regional processes in relation to small-scale fisheries, and then draw some conclusions. So the first global policy process I would like to introduce to you is in relation to the FAO Committee on Fisheries. 5 of these, and a new report on fisheries and the right to food that is expected to be presented to the Human Rights Council in March 2019. And we had a meeting just last week with the Special Rapporteur and had a discussion and discussed the need to make sure that small-scale fisheries is included and well represented in this new report. There's an open call for contributions, so I invite all of you to contact the Special Rapporteur and provide your inputs into this very important report. There's also a global action network on sustainable food from the oceans and inland waters for food security and nutrition. This is an initiative that is established by Norway, and it's a call on other countries to gather around the issue of food and fisheries. And we also had discussions with them last week, and small-scale fisheries will feature prominently also in the work of this network. So all of these developments are recognition of fish as food and of the human rights-based approach. So these are by no means exhaustive, relevant processes, but just to give you some food for thought. I now would like to briefly look at key regional processes that are relevant for small-scale fisheries. We have developments basically in all regions of the world in relation to small-scale fisheries. The African Union was already mentioned before by Edith Woodit. So there's a policy framework and reform strategy for fisheries and aquaculture in Africa that was established in 2014 and endorsed at the ministerial level. This was endorsed even before the endorsement of the small-scale fisheries guidelines, but this policy framework already includes the implementation of the small-scale fisheries guidelines even before their endorsement. So this is one important policy document at the Pan-African level. A lot seemed to have happened in 2015. Again, in Africa, there's a fisheries committee for the Central Eastern Atlantic, CECAF, which has an artisanal fisheries working group, and in 2015 decided to revise the terms of reference for this working group to also include the implementation of the small-scale fisheries guidelines. And this group just convened under these new terms of reference earlier this year in July in Senegal. In the Pacific, in 2015, the heads of fisheries endorsed a new song for coastal fisheries, which is a regional policy framework that was developed also with the Secretariat of the Pacific Community. So there's a recognition of the importance of small-scale fisheries also in that area. Here in this region, Southeast Asia Fisheries Development Center, CFDEC, has started a process to develop a regional approach for securing sustainable small-scale fisheries. And this was in follow-up to regional consultation that we co-organized with CFDEC in Indonesia to start the regional implementation process. So they have taken up this mandate now directly in the CFDEC agenda. In Central America, the Central American Fisheries and Aquaculture Organization, OSPESCA, has endorsed the Central American Fisheries and Aquaculture Integration Policy 2015 to 2025, which also includes the implementation of the small-scale fisheries guidelines. Earlier this year, we also had two important developments in the regions, one in the Caribbean and the Caribbean Regional Fisheries Mechanism. This regional organization endorsed a protocol in securing sustainable small-scale fisheries, and some of the people who are involved in the drafting of this protocol are with us in the conference these days. And just now, end of September, for the Mediterranean and Black Sea area, the General Fisheries Commission for the Mediterranean had organized a conference to adopt a regional plan of action for small-scale fisheries in the Mediterranean and the Black Sea. So you can see a lot is happening at the regional level in terms of integrating and raising the profile of small-scale fisheries and preparing to build. Is that in these regional processes, for example, some of these organizations have established new task forces or working groups on small-scale fisheries. And what is important here is that even if these organizations are originally intergovernmental organizations, the composition of these working groups reflects the spirit of the guidelines. For example, OSPESCA has established a new working group on small-scale fisheries, and also the GFCM, where small-scale fishers are part of the discussions from the very beginning. So this is really a shift in the governance systems and how small-scale fisheries is addressed. And this will ultimately then inform and guide the actions and the desired change on the ground and the transformation. So we are now in this phase of developing the enabling environment. There are actions already happening also at the national level, and we will hear a little bit more about this on the policy day on Wednesday, when some countries who are already taking action already in the national policies and national laws and national activities will share their experiences. So we'll hear more about this, because one important factor to acknowledge is that these transformations do need time. It is a lot about processes. These are important changes, and we need to acknowledge that this will take time. Very briefly, the conclusions on the implications of the current global and regional policy processes. We can say that there's an important momentum for securing sustainable small-scale fisheries. We see that small-scale fisheries is entering broader policy agendas beyond fisheries, but we also see that small-scale fisheries is receiving more attention within fisheries policy processes, including also on the socio-economic aspects. So this, however, also means that we do need new approaches to support this momentum and to really take advantage of this opportunity that we have at the moment. So there's a need for a better understanding of participatory governance mechanisms. Transdisciplinarity is needed, because we are looking beyond what fisheries administrations, for example, usually deal with. So we're getting out of our comfort zone in many ways, so there's a need to bring different actors together, and institutional innovation that is related to that. And this is something that we should keep in mind over the coming days in this Congress, that there's a role for all of us to identify these knowledge gaps in relation to these new approaches, to address them, and to altogether build capacities around them. Thank you.
Many thanks, Nicole. It's exciting to see that there's so much willingness and level of commitment from governments at various levels to support and securing the sustainable small-scale fisheries. So I hope that you feel that these three presentations have really done a fantastic job at setting the stage for the Congress. We definitely have a lot of work to do ahead of us, but this Congress is truly an opportunity to work on those initiatives and new collaboration and partnerships that we'd like to see, but also we challenge ourselves a little bit in terms of what do we need to do more and do better in moving forward. So I would like to, from the Congress organizing committee, we would like to offer small token of appreciation to our speakers.
But it doesn't connect.
As
But
part
here's
of,
working. We had like a
this
burp, here,
session,
like stop and then come
we'd
back.
like to,
But now
yes,
it's working.
that's
Just
it.
here's nothing.
Thank you very much.
So it's saying that's connected, but it's not really connected.
Okay, so I did one too. That's great. Thank you. Nice to do. All right, so thank you. We are going to break, and just to let you know, this is the first session, so you might still not be familiar with how things work here. So I just wanted to mention quickly that during the break, there will be e-poster presentations. So the presenters of the e-poster